Why do you feel tired all the time? Why don't you feel rested enough, even if you have had a good sleep that day? Even if you are at the weekend? Even if you are on vacation? Why do you feel exhausted when you come home from your desk job, when your health, your blood values, everything is in order? This is a situation that I think billions of people around the world are experiencing right now and cannot solve. We eat properly, it doesn't stop. We take supplements, it's not enough. So what is the reason for this, brother? The answer is simple. You are welcome to find the truth. You wake up like a staple in the morning. You say it's going to be a great Monday, and you go to work. But your battery runs out at 3 o'clock, the next day at 2:30, the next day at 2, the next day at 1, so you start the day with a messed up head on Friday. When you go online and look, you come across countless reasons. From those who say that you worry too much, to those who say you have insomnia, to those who say that the Mercury retrograde has ruined you, to those who say that gas is being thrown from the exhausts of airplanes into cities that slowly kill people, a bottomless confusion of topics makes you worse. The media and industry, aware of your poor performance, make you believe that you can never start the day without their crappy coffee, and you can barely make it through an office day, even at your young age, relying on tea and coffee all day long and energy drinks when it's not enough. Do you think this is a sustainable lifestyle? Of course not, which is why after a while you start to live on psychological pills and supplements, and all the money you earn goes back into the pockets of the industry that does not make the truth clear to you when it comes to coffee and pills. So how will this vicious cycle end? How will you get out of this bind when the exact source of the problem is not clear? The answer is simple. By reading the work of scientists who can remain free despite all the pressure, or those who say I don't have time. Fortunately, there is the truth, right? In the early 1970s, the American way of life was developing at breakneck speed, and people were going to the peak of consumption and production with new technologies and opportunities. Plazas were rising in the cities, factories were producing all kinds of products and a new technology. The computer was entering every aspect of people's lives. Hundreds of different clothing stores, thousands of different restaurants, and 10 different channels to choose from on television. Thanks to all these innovations, the American people, and later the whole world, were introduced to the novelty of unlimited choice. But at the same time as all this growth was taking place in this capitalist paradise, the rate of consumption of psychological drugs began to increase, and this attracted the curiosity of a neuroscientist, John Olney. Researching on modern living conditions and the brain's response to it, Olney introduces the concept of excitotoxicity for the first time in history and introduces the masses to glutamate, a neurotransmitter secreted by our brain. Glutamate, which is by far the most intensively used neurotransmitter by our brain, is a very important chemical that enables the brain to transfer this data in almost every decision you make. But there is another unknown effect of glutamate. As John Olson mentions in his articles, in case of excessive glutamate accumulation, if I have to put it in colloquial terms, your life will slip. Why? Because this indispensable substance that your brain uses for its own electrical communication network also kills it. Let's take a quick time travel in human history. Tens of thousands of years ago, according to the history we know, our ancestors were primitive Stone Age people, living in small groups in caves or very simple structures, and their only goal was to survive. They would get up in the morning, leave the cave, the foragers would gather fruits and vegetables, the hunters would go hunting, hunt all day, come back to the fire in the evening, feed themselves and go to bed, and the next day the same thing would happen again, and so on for hundreds of years. Then the invention of the wheel, the use of metals and so on, humanity started to develop and the way of life started to deepen. We started to live in larger groups in villages, not in caves anymore, and the daily tasks increased a bit more than before. As a result, the things you think about and the choices you make during the day increase with the maintenance of the house, fuel supply, various agricultural and hunting initiatives. Animal husbandry, so the hippocampus, which is the memory part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is the center of attention, decision-making, and mental control, the basal ganglia, which is associated with movement in the reward system, and the amygdala, which manages emotional responses, are now working even harder and producing signals. And one of the main systems that carries these signals, remember glutamates. Then humans evolve. We live in larger communities in larger cities. The things that need to be controlled, learned and maintained increase 1,000 times compared to our cave-age ancestors, and life becomes more complex. And then the Industrial Revolution and the modern age is in the end of the line. Let's make a simple comparison. Our ancestors 20,000 years ago would wake up in the morning and think about food for the evening, whereas today, even just for breakfast, you are thinking about whether to mix chia seeds with banana almond milk or eat different combinations of oats, bananas, eggs, not to mention lunch and dinner. Anyway, I had the artificial intelligence count. The average person thinks of 200 different combinations of food ingredients from morning to night. This is a mind-boggling number, and remember that your brain releases glutamate for each thought. Now, when you think about what to wear, what jewelry to wear, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, thousands of lines of code, dozens of decisions made at work, your brain starts to turn into a glutamate swamp. When you go out at work and walk home, 1,000 advertisements on the right and left are constantly sending messages to your brain. It doesn't end. When you come home tired, lie on the couch, and the TV is on in the background, which is nowadays Netflix, Amazon Prime, cable, satellite, etc. There are on-balance channels and options. You think you are relaxing and distracting, but with every movement, your brain is sending a signal. And more importantly, not just one part of your brain, but all of it, especially the prefrontal cortex, is firing, including the release of dopamine. Dopamine is the pleasure hormone and neurotransmitter of our brain, and it is secreted more or less every time you do that movement, because the brain is curious about what happens next in the next reel, especially if something of interest comes up. More dopamine, more dopamine, more dopamine. And it starts to numb you in microdoses. Look, this is no different from substance addiction. In one, you experience intense amounts of this pleasure, and the collapse is sudden. In the other, you experience this pleasure in microdoses for hours, and it becomes your lifestyle. So you don't realize that hours pass while you are idly scrolling the screen at work. The guys design those software in the light of this information. Remember that if a product is free, you are actually the product. They will surely exploit you in some way. So what do you say about your brain after you start from the morning and experience tens of thousands of neural bombings, directly or indirectly or completely subconsciously? By the way, on average, a working person makes 35,000 decisions in a day, not even including external stimulation. After all this storm of decisions, your nerve endings are clogged with glutamate. And I didn't say this just for the sake of saying it. It is really clogged, and the signal transmission of the brain starts to deteriorate. As a side effect of this, your brain forces you to sleep in order not to burn its circuits. Otherwise, you will start to experience diseases such as ALS, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's in the long run, as this accumulation will start to burn nerves and kill cells. Anyway, fortunately, I have a bed so I can sleep for 8 hours and reset myself otherwise. If you think that my life is going to slip and I don't realize it, you are sadly mistaken, because you probably don't realize it, but your life has already started to slip. When your brain, which has become a glutamate soup, goes to sleep, it starts to be cleaned quickly, especially during the deep sleep phase. Cleaning mechanisms, such as the glymphatic system, astrocytes, etc., clean the accumulated glutamate and reorganize synaptic connections. And you need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep for this cleaning. Well, you slept well. Are the problems over? Of course not. Remember, I said at the beginning of the video that the source of the problem is actually you, or rather your lifestyle that you have not changed. Let me explain why. Let's say your maximum glutamate limit before your brain becomes soup is 100 units. I'm giving the numbers as an example, of course. You woke up, wash your face, brush your teeth, take a shower, choose a dress, choose breakfast, pack your bag. You have already made hundreds of decisions, and glutamate has become 20. You drove to work, you made 1,000 big and small decisions in traffic, and you became 40. You started work, you made presentations, reports, lunch decisions. You became 80 and slowly a sluggishness and absent-mindedness started to fall around 3 o'clock. The reason for this fatigue is that your brain secretes a sleep-regulating chemical called adenosine to balance the glutamate that has started to accumulate excessively. That is, your brain gives the message that, let's get some rest or there will be trouble. But of course you can't sleep. Luckily we have coffee, which Hollywood movies and TV series show us as if we would die if we don't drink it, as if we would be ostracized from society, and your colleague immediately gives you a big cup of coffee and says, here you go. In fact, it is not a lie. The caffeine in coffee prevents the accumulation of adenosine for a while. Look, I did not say secretion, I said accumulation. This is a fine point because while caffeine holds adenosine like a damn wall, in the background the body continues to secrete and accumulate it. And when the effect of caffeine wears off, as if the dam bursts, all that accumulated adenosine flows to the brain receptors in such a way that you pass out either at the desk or on the bus with your head falling left and right. When you come home, your glutamate level has already reached 150. And when dinner options, what to add on TV and endless social media surfing are added, the level with a maximum limit of 100 has already reached 200. Now remember that even if you sleep for 7 to 9 hours, the body can erase 100 units. So what happened then? The next day you automatically started the day with 100 units, which is the maximum level, so you lost the race from the beginning. You finished the day with more coffee, more stimulants. You came home and went to bed with a level of 350, went to sleep, started the next morning with 250, and so on, because of your wrong lifestyle. Glutamate in your brain never drops to zero, and you feel tired and exhausted all the time. Even if you sleep, even if you don't work. Do you understand a little bit what kind of a vicious circle you have fallen into? And this vicious circle will gradually lead you to depression, anxiety disorders, and God forbid. But it seems that it will lead to brain damage in the future when you get older. Thank you, brother. We had a little morale and you finished it. Thank you. Those who say thank you should not lower their sails immediately. I first showed you your enemy, and now I will show you how to defeat him. We all have to work, and there is a lifestyle brought about by modern times. Now, I am not going to tell you to go to the mountains and herd sheep. Let's accept that there are realities of life. I will tell you what we can do with what we can do in these conditions. Now, first of all, you need to start with correcting the fact that many people seriously misunderstand the sleep event. The human body has biological clocks, and this clock has developed itself with the cycle of light and darkness as a result of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and adaptation. The sun rises, we work, the sun sets. It gets dark, we go to bed. That's basically it. But now there is no longer a concept called night darkness. Your home is bright, the streets are bright. Not enough, we all have big screen televisions that shine like the moon in our homes, and we all have phones in our hands that shine right in front of our eyes. All this disrupts the biological clock and prevents the body from entering the sleep cycle. So we look at these screens thinking that I didn't get sleepy until 2 or 3 o'clock at night. We need to break this down first. At dusk, our body starts to secrete melatonin, a very important hormone. In order not to disrupt the secretion of this hormone, you need to leave the phone or TV after 10 p.m. and go to bed at 11-12 p.m. at the latest. Friends, there is no need to be a night owl. Your health is more valuable. In other words, get rid of artificial light sources 1 hour before bedtime. Even put your phone in eye protection shield mode when it gets dark so that the damage is reduced. Prefer indirect yellow dim lights instead of shining lights like the sun on the ceiling in your home. Spend that last 1 hour before going to bed by reading a book. You will see that you are already instantly sleepy, and at that moment, go to sleep without looking at the phone. It is very important to sleep in the dark without an artificial light source in your room. To reduce decisions during the day, prepare the dress you will wear the next day and the breakfast you will have during that 1 hour phone-free evening period so that your brain is cleaner in the morning. Add foods such as blackberries and blueberries, which are strong antioxidants, to your breakfast, which help to reduce the glutamate that has already accumulated. Choose lunches rich in omega-3 found in walnuts, chia, and fish, and sprinkle the natural magnesium found in spinach, almonds, and pumpkin seeds in your snacks. Try not to get caught up in your phone and social media during the day. You are already working, and when that is on top of it, your brain's burning rate increases. So get out of that endless scrolling cycle. Don't try to overcome the weight that falls on you in the afternoon by drinking coffee. Look, friends, coffee is one of the biggest stakes of the modern age thrown to humanity, and it destroys people's nervous systems. Okay, we understand 1 cup a day, but drinking more is insane. Instead, the theanine in green tea both calms you and increases alertness. Theobromine in dark chocolate energizes the brain. A green apple energizes you with the natural sugar and acid in it. Don't say, "I can't wake up without coffee, I'll die," or something like that. That's because you are addicted to it, and coffee chains are taking away billions thanks to you. Give the body 2 weeks to get rid of that addiction, and then you won't take coffee in your hand. In addition to these, leave the unnecessary decision mechanisms during the day. Let artificial intelligence do it. For example, tell ChatGPT to plan what I will eat for 3 days in accordance with the following criteria. In the evening, instead of choosing 1,000 channels on TV, suggest me a movie and watch it. I repeat again, leave that phone and limit yourself with a timer so that you do not surf social media for hours without realizing it. And most importantly, start meditating urgently. When you feel sleepy during the day, know that adenosine is secreted. Go to a corner and do the meditation I taught you in my meditation and chakras video for 15 minutes, and you will be like a staple. When you come home in the evening, do the other meditations in the video for another 15 minutes and half an hour. If you manage to make these your standard of living, you will gradually erase those accumulated glutamates and that fatigue that clouds your mind. That fatigue that makes you feel like you are sick, that pulls you down, starts to go away. You start to sleep better at night and work better in the morning. Please pay attention to this video, friends. It has always made me sad to see people collapse like zombies, even on the way to work in the morning. And don't let the despicable companies get rich from your condition by selling you worthless coffees, selling antidepressants, selling supplement pills. Science tells us what the problem is, what we need to do. Artificial intelligence helps us to reduce the daily burden. Please use them and save your life. Otherwise, those companies will continue to exploit you and make you sick until the last penny in your pocket. I hope this video was helpful in understanding your problem and solving it. Please share it with your circle so that as many people as you can learn about it. I hope that other science pages will also touch on this topic, and the topic will reach millions of people so that many people can at least find an answer to the question of what is wrong with me. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and accompany me on my journey. Please take care of yourself until next week. Stay healthy.